start with a question. How do you design inclusively? It's kind of challenging, no? Inclusive design, by definition, means we need to design for the whole population. But how do we really do that? And what about the individuality and sense of taste to style? And how do we get there? My name is Grace, and for the past 4 years, I've been looking at the intersection of fashion and technology to create inclusive designed wearables for and with people with disabilities. I know that's a lot, right? But I never thought I would be here today doing what I'm doing. But it started when I started exploring wearable tech. Anywhere from wristwatches to the latest VR headset, I noticed the proliferation of such devices coming around was pretty common. But I just wanted to know one thing. Can fashion and technology empower people with diverse abilities? And what I mean by diverse abilities, I'm particularly referring and questioning what it means to be able-bodied. So if we're going to be designing for the future, shouldn't we maybe challenge ourselves to design beyond human augmentation and not just restoring it, as we see in many cases for assistive tech or medical products? And so, as an alum and now lecturer at Parsons School of Design, I graduated with a master's in design and technology, and a lot of my work during this time had focused on just that, accessible clothing, and for inclusion. I became friends with a lovely woman and breast cancer survivor whose quality of life was consistently challenged by continual pain long after her surgery. So she had a double mastectomy, and I had the privilege of working with her, and by doing so, I began to understand some of her daily challenges in life. I began to see that many of the times she would throw out some of her zipped clothing and kind of tight-fitted jackets. And therefore, I was trying to look for some other type of situation to work and inspire for that. And in particularly, I discovered that paralysis often impacted the way she dressed on and off clothing, especially on her own, without the help or assistance from someone. So during that time, I questioned what it meant to use technology and, for example, what is really important when you're working with data, especially with apparel. So I noticed in her in-person meetings with her therapist, she would just briefly talk about a week's long worth of pain and discomfort by just simply doing this to her therapist. So I found that highly inefficient, and I thought technology and design could improve that kind of communication. So I created a garment with an embedded circuit system using Bluetooth to capture the data of her range of motion, so the movement in her arms, and it would transfer that kind of information to the screen. And so I would hope that this type of wearable or inclusive design would better allow Dorothy to communicate or dialogue with her physical therapist. Yet it wasn't enough, because to create something technical, you can't just do without form factor, without style, without fashion. And so I noticed her desire for stylish clothing was less about her trying to be perfect or the search for perfection, but it was more about having options. And so not having options has been not only a barrier for people with disabilities, but it's been a barrier for people who've gone through injury or have recovered through surgery. I struggled with this tension between fashion, tech, and putting everything together, so I created a series of jackets that did just that and encompassed all of those parts. But overall, I looked at aesthetics, particularly in apparel that is traditionally seen in pleated jackets or magnetic closures, a more larger armhole, and all of these elements that I thought was necessary instead of just sticking on extra circuits and garments to elevate her sense of confidence, and therefore I hoped to empower her daily life. So rather than problem solving, I always saw design as a means of exploring. And for me, I took what I learned from this one experience. I decided to take it abroad to universities and local public schools in New York City for low-income families, until I came across a group of people who was quite similar or has shared the same passion. Open Style Lab is a nonprofit organization whose mission is dedicated to creating accessible clothing and raising the awareness for that for people of diverse abilities. And as their current executive director, I ensure that we do this in 3 ways. One is to increase awareness. And we do this through public speaking, like I am today, and definitely shows to engage with the audience. 2, to equip our community through an educational program to give them the skills to create accessible clothing. And finally, 3, to distribute some of our know-how and techniques either online or to the public. And one of the ways we do this is that we do our 10-week program. So we team the designer, the engineer, an occupational therapist or physical therapist with one person that has a disability to work together for 10 weeks to create a wearable solution. And it's important for us because even after 25 years in the United States with the Disabilities Act, accessible clothing is still a barrier. And even more so, for many of us, it prevents social engagement where there's unspoken dress codes, such as weddings, funerals, and other social events. But I'd like to just refer that it's not just about disability or abilities or performance, but we are in an era where it's a growing aging population. People are living longer, right? We have more people that are not just living longer, but also may have a higher chance of acquiring a disability in their lifetime. So I believe this type of design thought or consideration is very urgent now. After nearly 4 years, we've produced 60 design solutions or types of explorations during our 10-week program. And together, the teams brainstormed and created accessible clothing anywhere from ranging from wearable tech to ergonomic apparel that has fabric that is functional or smart, per se. And then they iterate and test until the final week where they showcase their work in the public. A great example was one last summer in the 2016 Open Style Lab summer program hosted at MIT, which I'll show. Thank you. I'm almost done, I promise. So last summer, we had a lot of distinguished guests from aerospace to sciences to fashion, and they all came to listen to and watch the clients who have various disabilities talk about their 10-week experience. Joining with me here today is MC Akis and Nadine, where I'm going to show examples of 2 of our work. If you'd like to come with me. Welcome to the stage. And Nadine. Woo! Thank you. So on MC, we have one of our outstanding earlier year examples by a team that created the rain jacket, a multifunctional water-resistive jacket with a deployable lap cover that is accommodating for bike riders as well as wheelchair users. This jacket was inspired by Ryan, who had spinal cord injury. And 2, right by my right, is Nadine. And most recently, in the program that you just saw in the video, in 2016, we had a team that worked with an 11-year-old girl who had autism. And her habit, which was a sensorial disability, was to pick on all her clothes and destroy them. So we created a durable shirt that has a raglan sleeve and an underarm gusset for range of motion, as well as in the back, we have a single seam to get out of the way from her picking. And then finally, in the front, we have an ultrasonic welded hem on the bottom, so there's no frills. Thank you. So I just wanted to end that I'm continuing this model by teaching it at Parsons, an accredited course in New York City. And the students are from a variety of backgrounds, from biology to business to engineering and product design. But most importantly, they are teamed with a local client in New York to reiterate this model, to test, and to definitely question what it means to design for inclusively today. Thank you so much.